Funeral home employees / owners of Reddit. What's the most ridiculous outfit you've seen someone buried in? Not ridiculous so much as weird from the outside. My grandfather was buried with a folded up bunch of paper towels stuffed up his sleeve. He was one of those guys who always had something for spills and runny noses. And he always had paper towels or tissues with him. Turns out he had started keeping them in his sleeves when he was younger just in case he ever needed them. And with 5 kids and 11 grandkids he always needed them. When he died his sons decided it would be very fitting if he had some paper towels with him. So that's how he was during his viewing and service. Everyone is panic buying TP while my man is calm, cool and collected knowing he has the ace up his sleeve. I do not recommend using paper towels as toilet paper. You ass will be feeling it for days after. Plus paper towels don't flush well. I have used Lysol wipes on my asshole when I ran out before. Would not recommend 10/10ths. The fact that everyone is buying truckloads of all 3 items you all have listed. If I go out soon I want my casket packed with these items. I buried my late husband in a Superman t-shirt and his favorite camo pants and boots. He wore his camos when he went to chemotherapy. He called them his battle pants. He put in a poker chip from one of his mates, his BlackBerry and a toy from our daughter. I always wonder what the archaeologists would make of it if he was ever exhumed. Archaeologist here. I'm pretty sure you accidentally started a trend in the academia of centuries from now where people write about techno-religious iconography and rituals involving metal bricks which were used to simulate communication with the ancestors. When in doubt, ritualistic purposes. Except for a brief period where we tried to explain everything as anything but ritual behavior and accidentally went too far the other way. Oh, what happened there? Not well versed on archaeology here. My mom was an avid bridge card game player. Our sweet funeral director researched a good winning hand in bridge. Mom was cremated holding her winning hand. Well shit. That's oddly wholesome. What a kind funeral director. It's the little things, not the big things. Isn't it? She was. I think he'll drop her a little note saying thanks years later. She would probably appreciate that. I think funeral directors face a lot of thankless days, which is understandable as most people they meet are wrought with grief. A little line telling her you're grateful for that small gesture would probably mean a great deal. She probably would. I felt like the directors were vultures preying on the sadness. My first husband was an avid fisherman. His parents insisted he be buried in a suit, but his favorite outfit was a pair of khaki shorts and a yellow Bass Pro shirt. I asked the funeral director to put that outfit underneath the suit, and no one was the wiser. I put a couple of his favorite lures and his most well-loved pipe in his pocket. I don't doubt for a moment that the crematorium disposed of those items, but at least I knew I did right by him. Good for you. I think that's much more personal than a suit. My grandmother was raised Seventh-day and believed in the resurrection. When my grandfather died, I laid out his best clothes and his dress cowboy boots, which he loved. My grandma hated those boots, so she said, oh no, they don't bury people with shoes on. So I acquiesced, and grandpa went into the ground in his socks. I'm sure she was worried she would have to spend eternity with him in those boots. Put the boots on her when she goes. We buried grandma, who was a lovely woman, and only put her foot down twice in 50+ years of marriage. Grandpa's chewing tobacco habit, and those boots, in her dancing shoes. There's still time to do the right thing and switch their footwear. How hard is it to get shoes off of a corpse? Fancy nightdress and matching robe. This 70+-year-old lady, or maybe it was her husband's preference, wanted to be buried in this glamorous vintage nightdress set that you would see in an old movie. It had feather accents and matching kitten heel slipper things. She also was buried in her costume jewelry. Her regular hairdresser came in to do her hair and cried the entire time. The decedent was quite old and I think had been sick for a while, so the nightdress fit loosely, so we used double-sided tape and a few simple stitches to the nightdress to try to keep everything where it should go. It was a weird request, but I thought it was interesting. And To the staff's surprise, her family seemed to expect this as something totally normal. Pretty cool. Oh, the part about the hairdresser broke my heart. Open bracket. Yeah. I was talking to my barber who said that he offered his services for such an outcome. So I have already made my last appointment him. I hope you mean last appointment for some day in the future and do not actually have a set time frame. Tuesday. I've decided on Tuesday. The Walking Dead shirt. Family had a great sense of humor. I get that funerals are typically a somber scenario, but if people are not laughing and joking at mine I will be disappointed. Oh, they also had a get well soon balloon near the casket. Thank you for the idea. My great aunt was buried in her 100 jazzercise classes taken t-shirt. She was super fucking proud of it, so it was fitting. Love that woman. She sounds like a good time. My uncle was buried in a Santa Claus outfit and I can say I'm scorned forever for Christmas. All I could think about was a Santa zombie chasing people, bursting through the boarded up chimney. My grandma wanted to be buried in powder blue PJs because she wanted to be comfortable. So that's exactly what we did, and she looked great. Your grandma was a wise lady and I mean it. It's one of my requests to have my shoes tied together when I'm buried. If my corpse ends up coming back to zombie terrorized society, I want people to have every advantage against my reanimated remains. Now, give me the shoes with the pump in the tongue. I wanna fly when I'm eating brains lol. The best zombie plan I ever heard was don't get shot. Eat as many brains as possible. One of my friends has always said that a zombie apocalypse plan is to get on the other side of a chain link fence from one and then stick his pinky finger through to get bit because he wants to be on the winning side. In my grandpa's case the outfit was his birthday suit and a treasured blanket. When my grandpa died a few years ago, it was his wish that he be buried naked and wrapped in his favorite blanket, a blanket that my grandma handmade for him decades ago. Thankfully the funeral home was very understanding of his wishes and had him in the casket naked with the blanket around him for his viewing and subsequent burial. My wife's grandma was buried with her favorite blanket. She always wrapped herself in it during her final illness and so requested we put it in the casket with her. She was clothed, but the outfit she was wearing was one she'd not fit into for years until ironically she got sick. It actually cheered her up knowing she had lost enough weight to wear it, so that's what we buried her in. I sang at a funeral where the man wanted to be buried with his bar stool from a local pub. He'd been a regular for years, and the pub acquiesced. It was weird to sing to a bar stool at the graveside portion of the funeral. As I remember, it had red leather inset on the seat. When my husband passed away I put a joint and a lighter in his pocket. Strangely he passed away on the 20th of April 16. He loved the ganja. He is gonna be dead high for sure. /s. I don't know if this counts, but it contains a wedding dress and basically someone's in it. So well I'm just gonna say it. If it doesn't count it's okay. If it gets deleted I have to delete it when my great grandmother died. Her wish was to be buried with her husband who had been cremated about 14 years earlier. But it's illegal here to bury two people in one grave unless it's asked like years before they die. So my grandmother had this plan. She had a pillow made of G grandmother's wedding dress. So my grandmother put G grandfather's ashes into the pillow. And when we could say our last farewells, we asked the funeral man, IDK what it's called in English, if we could change the original pillow for this one. He agreed and we were trying so hard not to laugh because we were smuggling G grandfather, who was dressed in a wedding dress, into the coffin illegally, and I swear I could hear G grandmother laugh through the wind. But that's a story for another time. Her funeral was wild. This is brilliant. Not a funeral home, but I went to a family friend's funeral where the guy was just shirtless. He had a blanket covering up to his chest, so I'm not sure if he had pants. My father always used to tell me he wanted his dead body stuffed and placed in the lobby of an adult movie theater. As a kid I did not understand what was funny about this, and now he denies he ever said it. My father always used to tell me he wanted his dead body stuffed and placed in the lobby of an adult movie theater. Which order did he want this done in is my only question. Stuffed clown suit. I kid you not. Were they a professional clown or question mark? They were indeed. Joe's Crab Shack. Peace, love and crabs, no shit. My grandpa was buried in bib overalls and a plaid shirt. He was just a simple farmer and that's how he wanted to be seen for the last time. How my great grandfather was buried as well. Son. My grandmother had a deck of cards for 60 plus years. They were frayed, stained and you could barely read them. She refused to use any of the nice fancy new cards we gave her and never shared the story as to why they were so important to her. She was buried with those cards. It seemed like such a tender and intimate moment to place them next to her, as if they were a huge token of her memories that were never meant to be shared. It's been 20 years. I still miss her beyond words. She didn't want to use another deck because she'd used them so long she knew each card and could easily cheat because she knew who held what. Just teasing. Sorry. Hope I didn't upset you. Sounds like she was pretty cool. He's wearing a teddy, but a masculine teddy. Dorothy, you know this is my funeral dress. I don't believe in wearing black unless I'm a little bloated. Not me, but my sister worked in a funeral home. Little boy died at his birthday party. Was buried in his Spider-Man PJs. With all the stuff going on in the world right now, this to me is the saddest thing I've read online today. My grandfather always wore those dicky jumpsuits. When he passed, all the grandkids wanted to bury him in his favorite one, light blue. But my grandmother quickly put a stop to that. This was my neighbor growing up. I think he even went to church in them. Slightly off topic, but my grandpa passed away last week and we had his visitation / funeral on Thursday / Friday. At the funeral home, the director asked when the last time he'd worn a suit was. We said it was probably for my grandma's funeral 6 months earlier. Apparently there were cookies in the pocket of the pants. Completely appropriate, given my grandpa was a child at heart who loved ice cream, cookies, and candy. We left the cookies in there. My brother was buried in Orosu, Oklahoma State. Hoodie, his favorite pair of jeans, wearing a pair of Oakleys I had he really liked. Well, this was more of a little casket decoration thing. So when my great uncle died, we all put a stuffed animal in the casket with him that had red on it, and my family put a peacock in there. We also put a pair of red suspenders in there with him. Ex-Mormon here. Mormons are buried in their temple clothes. So some funeral directors are a little surprised to see white pants, white shirt, and green apron. Edit, and the white hat. I almost forgot the hat. Was coming here to say this. I can't imagine there are many people buried looking more busy than those in Mormon temple clothes. Current / active Mormon, now called Latter-day Saint. Here, we believe that in heaven, everything will be whiter beyond any description. So we are supposed to wear our white temple clothes, so that way we somewhat match heaven. Since, I'm paraphrasing this, no unclean thing can stand in the presence of God. Since white is considered the purest color, and we want to be as spotless as we can when we finally meet God, we wear white to hopefully resemble our spotless lives after we repented. So mass-produced cheap synthetic fabrics is what you use to fit into heaven. Sounds like an eternity of being itchy. I'm not a funeral home employee, but me and my moms had a good laugh. It was still really sad when my great grandpa was buried in his clown suit because he requested that he'd be buried in it or hate everyone while watching from heaven. Hey, thanks for watching, and don't forget to subscribe.